Poor old Queen. I feel a bit sorry for
Yeah,
her.
I didn't like popularity contests. I don't think it's very fair.
No.
Well, William has glamour on his side.
He has Kate on his side as well. Yeah, she wasn't included in the poll.
Very good morning to you both. Helen Croydon and James O'Brien here, who've come over to talk about the papers and picked out a few good things in the papers for us to chat about. Helen, you've picked out a story in the Telegraph, first of all. The state pupils missing out on Olympic legacy is the headline there.
Yes, this is a report in the Telegraph. Head of Ofsted, Michael Wilshaw, says that a third of the Olympic medalists came from private schools, and he's saying that not enough is being done in state schools to promote sport. He's going to make a speech this week outlining how PE needs to be toughened up and how students all need to do it, because at the moment they have the option to sit it out, and he's saying that this shouldn't be the case. Yeah, and he's saying that you know, they need to bring in the competitive edge, and it needs to be toughened up. And I have to say, I do think PE needs to be pushed in schools, you know, especially in the so-called epidemic of childhood obesity. But I don't know whether a tougher approach is the right option, because I remember I didn't go to private school, I went to a state school, and I can relate to this story because I hated PE, and I was one of those children that hid in the toilets. And now, you see, sport is a huge part of my life, and I'm mad about it. I spend most of my weekends running and going to competitions and things. And I think the difference is that at school it was so unpleasant, the teachers were so militant, we had to go outside, we weren't allowed to wear a jumper, it was freezing cold.
Why were PE teachers always the scariest teacher from school?
Very disappointed men and women, generally speaking. The other aspect they miss out on, perhaps, is private schools have more hours in the day. So, I mean, my school had a golf course and three rugby internationals in my year alone. I was just
too much competition.
Exactly. But we finished at 6:30, so we'd be coming back from rugby at 3:30 when kids at state schools were going home, and that's got to be a big part of it. Rowing, if you're at an inner-city comprehensive school, I'm thinking there's probably not that many opportunities to take up rowing. And even something like trampolining. I did a bit of training with a wonderful woman called Kat Driscoll, who went to the Olympics for us as a trampolinist. But if you don't happen to live near a club that is brilliant at trampolining, you can't be
so tough for state schools, may not have the facilities, but also they're under pressure to get the results academically.
Yeah, I think they need to make it enjoyable for children. I think that's the key, not to toughen it up, which he's saying, but just to make it fun, because making it more competitive, which is actually what Michael Wilshaw is saying, I think turns children off sport. If they're not good at it, they don't see the rewards, they're not going to enjoy it, they're going to want to hide in the toilets like I did.
OK, let's move on to a story in The Observer. This is about celebrities and causes. This is Anna Friel.
It's a brilliant story, this. It's very fashionable and often irresistible to mock celebrities when they try to do something good, and a lot of the time I think they're in it for their own profile more than the cause they're promoting. But Angelina Jolie, of course, this week has been doing some incredible profile raising and campaigning on the issue of rape in war zones, rape in wars. And Anna Friel, almost by accident, got involved in this campaign to stop a big oil and gas company from taking out oil exploration procedures in one of the only parts of the world where mountain gorillas still live, and they've just pulled out. First of all, they attacked her and sort of said, "Oh, you made the film in Rwanda," and she said, "Well, that's because we didn't feel safe going into the actual area where the park was," and now they've just called time on it. It's in the Democratic Republic of Congo, one of the nastiest places on earth at the moment in terms of what could happen to you. So for someone like Anna Friel, who I of course still remember on Brookside, achieving such an epic result against a massive company looking for oil, normally, you know, no one can stand in their way, and of course with Angelina Jolie getting her honorary damehood yesterday, it's two examples there of women who might well be incredibly beautiful and brilliant at acting, but have actually achieved more politically than some professional politicians.
And it was all achieved by people signing a petition as well, 700,000 signatures. Nobody actually gave any money. It was all through just raising awareness and getting names on paper.
Virunga
People
National
are so
Park,
quick to criticise.
They are,
that's
exactly.
Here they are trying to do good, and it'd be far worse if they didn't do anything at all, but it's just...
And there's something utterly charming about her surprise at the success. It's always like, well, you know, she thought she was doing her bit, but my flipping heck, it's worked. It's a magnificent story.
OK, let's delve a little bit further into The Observer, because a story here that you've spotted, Helen, about crowdsourcing or crowdfunding. What have they done with it?
Yes, yet another story linked to rising property prices, and I think it's brilliant how creative people get to overcome this obstacle of getting onto the property ladder. This is now a crowdfunding companies being created to get people to invest in buy-to-let properties. So crowdfunding works on the basis that lots of people invest a very small amount of money and they're into a project or a business, and then they get a very small share of the dividends and perhaps a capital share as well. So this was the brainchild of James Cadbury. He's part of the Cadbury family, and one would presume that he'd have no trouble getting on the property ladder. But actually, he said it came from his own experiences of struggling to buy a property. So he had lots of his friends he'd seen club together and buy their own property, and he thought, well, why don't I do this on a bigger scale? So he created this business, put it on a crowdfunding website, and now people have the option of clubbing in with hundreds of other people for a very small share of a buy-to-let property, which I think is ingenious, really.
It's a great idea, because a lot of people, like you said, don't have the full deposit and they want to put their money somewhere. Savings aren't getting you, any interest rate. So to invest it in something and perhaps get a little bit back, I think it's a great idea.
Or trying to get a toehold on that ladder. Let's move on to a story in the Daily Mail. This is about the ongoing situation in Ukraine. Of course, a lot of our attention has been focused on Iraq.
Exactly.
Still problems.
Yes, exactly. And Vladimir Putin is well aware of that fact, which possibly explains why a plane containing 49 Ukrainians got shot down. Tanks crossing the border reportedly, and the usual line coming out of the Kremlin saying they're not Russian tanks. So quite where you pick up a tank with Russian insignia on the black market in Ukraine that doesn't have any links back to the Kremlin is beyond me. But the Middle East story is just impossible to unravel, because first of all we were fighting with Saddam Hussein against the Iranians, then we went to war to stop Iraq becoming another Iran, and now we're sort of cautiously seeking support from Iran to fight against a post-Saddam Iraq. This is as old-fashioned, it's almost reassuringly old-fashioned, a sort of kleptocratic dictator in the Kremlin taking the mickey out of the West, pushing tanks over borders, and our politicians still shamefully sitting on their hands. America appear to be sort of getting ready for a fight here. The Home Affairs Select Committee calling for sectoral sanctions overnight, and that is the only thing that will hurt Putin. You won't hurt him in the popularity contest because he controls the media in Russia. You've got to hurt him in his wallet, in his bank account, and the bank accounts of his cronies and supporters. We'll see.
Yes, another incredibly difficult problem to try to
two
sort out.
Stories there, which
issues.
are huge in their potential impact.
Yeah. OK, we're going to take a bit of a break, but we've got lots more to talk about after that break, so don't go away, including why men are apparently getting into fashion. We're picking our way through the Sunday papers this morning with Helen Croydon and James O'Brien, and you spotted some fat cats.
Fat cats, yes, in
Couldn't
the
miss
literal
this
sense.
The Sunday Times.
In the literal sense of the word. Yeah, the first diabetes clinic for cats has opened. Apparently, now cats are now 25% more cats are diabetic than they used to be, and it's caused apparently by exactly the same things that causes diabetes in humans, in that their lifestyles don't match what they're genetically disposed to eat. So they're eating much tastier and richer foods because we're giving it to them, basically.
We're indulging our pets,
yes,
basically.
We're indulging our pets. And there's a lot more cats who, unsurprisingly, are kept indoors, who are much more prone to diabetes because they're not going outside.
Risk-averse, indulgent pet owners.
Because they're by nature, they're supposed to only eat twice a day and then store all that glucose. That's what they're designed for. But we're now feeding them little and often, or perhaps like a lot and often.
Yes.
And they're getting diabetes.
And is there decent treatment for it? Do we know? Can it be?
Yes, exactly the same as humans. They get insulin injections.
It's not exactly the same. They don't inject themselves.
You have to try and catch him first.
Exactly, yes. It's hard enough deworming off cats. I dread to think what a daily injection would be like.
Twice a day,
I was at the seaside yesterday, and in the ice cream shop, there was another freezer at floor level for dog treats. I've never seen that before.
All these gourmet brands that are coming out for our pets are actually really bad for them.
Yeah.
And there you go. They should reap what you sow.
Let's move on to a story in the Telegraph that you've spotted, and this is about men getting into fashion.
Well, other men obviously. It's a lifetime love affair for me with a cutting edge of masculine sartorial achievement. It's numbers again. It's how much the men's clothing industry, the market is worth, £12.9 billion and rising at a rate of knots. The chief executive of the British Fashion Council describes it as unprecedented speed. And if you think about it, even though quite why they've used George Osborne's photograph to illustrate a picture about men looking fashionable is beyond me. His diet is disappearing.
That doesn't look
weird. It's unbelievable.
It just says, I can see the tenuous link here.
Go on.
There is good news for the Chancellor. Sports
Well
influenced leisure wear for men is likely to be one of the season's runaway hits.
He's
not actually a sportsman.
no, but he is exercising.
They probably won't be choosing him as their model, will they? Let's face it.
But it's more to do with cost. I mean, that's PE kit. We were talking about sports earlier. PE kit would once have cost you'd got change out of a tenner. But now, if you go anywhere and you're buying stuff that's labelled and sponsored and branded, it's very, very difficult to buy anything cheap.
It's quite interesting. A lot of the big women's brands on the high street are now developing a men's range. I know 2 big stores are launching this month a men's range.
Well, good. I have to say, it's about time.
Yes,
I really appreciate it.
Life was so much simpler with a suit and a shirt.
I'm going to interrupt because I've got to release you to the shops because we're done for now. But James and Helen, really good to see you this morning. Thanks both very much indeed. We're going to take a look at the back pages now, actually, with Ed.